Calgary, 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 the market that continues to buck the trends. Compared to Vancouver, compared to Toronto, the Calgary real estate market looks super rosy right now, down 3% in sales compared to Vancouver and Toronto, which are both down more than 40% in sales compared to July of last year. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what's going on in Calgary and why Calgary's real estate market continues to buck the national trend. The definitive guide on how to manage your credit, product, penalty, price in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right. All right, so welcome back. The Calgary real estate market is still on fire. I mean, it's on fire compared to the rest of the country, and in a good way, not in a bad way, because the Calgary real estate market is one of the few markets in Canada that continues to buck the trend with respect to reduced sales and reduced prices. And if you saw my Vancouver and Toronto real estate updates in the last week, you'll know that Vancouver and Toronto are down substantially, not just in number of sales, but also in price. You can go and take a look at those videos. I'll link to them at the end. But before we get into all the details about why Calgary is faring better than the rest of the country, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And if you are somebody who's looking at getting into the market in the next 3 months to 6 months to 5 years, whatever your time frame is, I've got something special for you at the very end of this video. So stay tuned for that. I'll give you a hint. I've got something that's going to take the fear out of buying for you no matter what your timeline is. All right, so welcome back. Today we're going through the Calgary real estate market. I'm going to jump you right into the headlines as we do. This is from BNN Bloomberg. Calgary home sales down 3% in July as rates rise, says the real estate board. Okay, so what's going on here? Like Vancouver's down 43%, Toronto's down 46%. Sales across the country are down substantially, but in Calgary, 3%. No big deal, right? Yeah, it actually really isn't a big deal. We are not down as much as the rest of the country. And the question is why? And the answer to that is really, really simple. There are markets in Canada, like Vancouver, like Toronto, like Ottawa, like certain areas on the East Coast, that had this irrational exuberance when it came to buying homes in the last 2 or 3 years. Bidding wars, $100,000, $200,000 over list price. It was absolutely crazy. Well, certain areas in the country didn't experience that same sort of thing. Areas like Calgary and the Prairie provinces in general didn't experience that irrational exuberance that led to massive housing prices increases. Now, yes, Calgary saw housing price increases, but it wasn't the absolute insanity that was happening elsewhere. Now, in February, March, we started to see a little bit of the insanity flow into the Calgary market as Ontario buyers started to come in and buy properties thinking that Calgary was going to be a really good investment, not knowing that Calgary is a very cyclical market and that if you were buying homes here, there was a pretty good chance that when oil prices went down 5-10 years down the road, you're going to be left holding the bag, but that is a whole nother video. But the good news is that the Bank of Canada started increasing interest rates, and that was just as the market started to get crazy in Calgary, which led to this market that isn't necessarily as crazy as what happened in the other markets. So all this increased buyer demand didn't necessarily happen here. And when the Bank of Canada started increasing interest rates, it appeared that it was just business as usual in the Calgary market, especially as we saw oil prices increase and the economy as a general rule start to return back to oil boom type economy in the city here. So as a result, we've seen this housing market that isn't as insane as other markets. So I want to jump in and show you the City of Calgary monthly statistics package. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know that this is my favorite stats package in the country. They do it better than anybody else. I'm not saying that because I'm from Calgary. I'm saying that because I'm an economist and I actually appreciate what they do here because it is substantially better than every other stats package in the country. When I want to dig deep on Calgary real estate, they've already done it for me. I don't need to go in and try to find the information myself because it's all here and available versus Toronto and Vancouver where I have to go in and pull all the data for all the individual communities and build my own price charts. It's just really, really difficult, but that's all an aside. Let me show you what's going on in Calgary. So housing prices are up to $540,000. That's up 12.3% year over year. Now, this is down $3,000 from the previous month. This is the first down month that Calgary's seen in this interest rate hike cycle. And you can see the detached prices are around $643,000. Row prices, that's townhouses, $362,000. Apartments are at $278,000. And you can see that the sales numbers are down just a little bit year over year, 2.6%. New listings are down 3.8%. Inventory is down about 20%. Now, this is really interesting because this is what's supporting the upward pressure on prices. And months of supply is about 2.37%. By the way, balanced market is typically about 3 months of supply. So we've got this Calgary market where things are pretty much normal compared to what they would be in a normal year. Now, in comparison, we did the Vancouver and the Toronto real estate market updates. I'll link those up here. And those markets are down off their March and April highs, anywhere from 8 to 15%. The higher end areas are doing very, very well. They're not down as much as the lower end areas, but the lower end areas are suffering quite substantially. Now, compare that to Calgary. If we take a look at June's numbers, you can see June's numbers were slightly higher from a price point perspective. But if you go back to March and April, March, we're up from March's numbers. So we're $540,000 today. We were $518,000 in March. And in April, we were at $526,000. So the Calgary real estate market has continued to increase in prices, even as the rest of the country has started to see a decline in prices. And what do we make of that? Well, first and foremost, Calgary is a significantly more affordable market than many other areas. We've also got a booming economy because oil prices are back up, which means we're starting to see those happy years of net migration return, where people are leaving places like Ontario and BC because they're so overvalued and moving to places like Calgary, which is, by the way, the number 3 most livable city in the world because it's cheaper. You can have a higher average income here. And ultimately, even with rising interest rates, houses are still very affordable. So this is what a market that wasn't irrationally exuberant looks like compared to the rest of the country. And by the way, this same story is repeating itself in Edmonton and Saskatoon and Regina and Manitoba, in all kinds of areas of the country that didn't have that crazy market. So while there is this perception that there's a Canadian real estate crash happening across the country, the reality of it is that crash is only really happening in those markets where things got really crazy and people were buying houses at $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 over list price. The rest of the country, even in the face of higher interest rates, is still faring okay. And in my recent interview on the Tom Story Show with Tom Story and Steve Koresh, you can check those guys out. They're both phenomenal. We talked about this. If you look at the landmass of Canada compared to the landmass of Europe and how many countries there are in Europe and how many individual economies there are, well, we treat Canada's real estate market like it's all one real estate market. And the reality of it is it isn't all one real estate market. It is a whole bunch of individual markets that all act independent of each other. So when you see things like Canadian real estate market is crashing, well, it might be crashing in Toronto, it might be crashing in Vancouver, and I think it's safe to say an 8 to a 15% reduction in prices in a matter of 3 or 4 months is probably something you could consider at least a strong correction, if not a crash. Well, other markets are faring well and not necessarily as bad as what's going on in those two provinces. So here's the reality is there's a whole lot of people looking at news articles right now that are really scared to get into the real estate market because they think that housing prices are going to come down substantially. And the reality is yes, it's probably more of a market where you need to be buying with respect to your needs more than with your wants. Because if housing prices do continue to go down, well, if you bought a house just because you wanted to buy a house or investment property because you wanted to be a real estate investor and you weren't looking at the actual fundamentals, you're probably going to get your butt kicked. But if you're buying on a 5, 10, 15, 20-year time horizon or a long-term time horizon, it really doesn't matter when you purchase that home because 20 years from now, it's just going to be a blip on the radar. But people need certainty when they're getting into purchasing. And the thing about certainty is certainty comes with education and knowledge. And one of the things that we don't have in the industry in Canada right now, at least in my opinion, is a really good source of information for home buyers who are buying with the intent of living in a property. There's lots of really good information for investors out there, but for home buyers who want to buy to live in a property, there just isn't really anything great out there other than relying on your mortgage broker, your realtor, and your family member in order to figure out what the best information is. So I'm putting an end to that. We've had our first time homebuyer class, which was amazing. By the way, that's going to be included in what I'm about to talk about. And that has helped a significant amount of Canadians buy their first home. And that has allowed a significant amount of Canadians to buy a home with confidence in the past 18 to 24 months. But We want to make this even better for people so that anybody who's purchasing a home, whether it's a first-time home buyer or somebody who's maybe been through the process but not in the last little while, has the information they need in order to make an informed decision. Not just following a real estate agent's advice or a mortgage broker's advice, but really becoming educated so that they know exactly what they're doing. And where this all comes from is from my 20 years of experience in the mortgage business, but also my time running real estate companies, doing turnarounds on real estate companies, where I learned pretty much everything there is to know about the insider secrets when it comes to buying a home. So what I want to do is I want to be able to give you that information in a modular format so that if you're getting a home inspection done, or you're applying for a mortgage, or if you're choosing a realtor, or at any step in the home buying process, you're going to be able to open up this course, which we're calling the Homebuyer Masterclass, and you're going to be able to find the information you need based on where you're at in the process, so that you don't just have to take your realtor or your mortgage broker's word for it. You can find the information that you need in one place. So what we're going to do is 3 or 4 times a year, we're going to put a cohort together and we're going to go through the whole home buying process. Now, if your timeline is 3 months down the road, awesome. If it's a year down the road or 5 years down the road, you're going to have lifetime access to the information that is in the Homebuyer Masterclass, because it starts at saving a down payment and goes all the way to completing a purchase. And what that means is that if you get in now, you're going to get all the information. We're going to be with you through the entire journey, and you're going to pay the lowest price that you'll ever be able to pay, because the founding members of the Homebuyer Masterclass are going to get a significantly better deal than those people who do it in the second cohort or the third or the fourth or the fifth. So this is your opportunity to get in on the ground floor and learn everything you need to know so that you can buy with confidence and without any fear of whether you're buying at the right time, because I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about whether it's the right time for you to purchase a home instead of talking about whether or not it's the right time for you for your realtor, if you get what I'm saying. So in order to sign up, you can go to homebuyermasterclass.ca or click the link in the description below. There's been some trouble getting to the actual website if you go and type it in, but if you click the link in the description below, it'll definitely work. I sincerely hope that you join us. And as always, if you found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video, and we'll see you on the very next one. Cheers.